I have a bone to pick with Mr. Roland Emmerich before we start talking
Just
about
one?
his film. I've got one major bone to pick with him
Just one
today.
major one.
Roland, I know you're watching. You can't criticize Marvel movies for all being the same when every movie you've made since 1996 has been Independence Day just all over again. You don't get to do it. You don't get to. And that comes from a guy that kind of likes a lot of his later stuff. I kind of dig his Godzilla movie. I dig Day After Tomorrow. I dig 2012 because it's complete trash. I hate Moonfall, whatever. But you can't complain about every movie being the same if you continue to make the same movie over and over again.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, this is one of those, maybe work on yourself first, buddy. But today we're going to talk about, I think, what I would consider to be his first big hit. I know he had Stargate a few years prior, but Stargate became famous because of the show. Yeah. This is the one that, I mean, it's just a regular celebration every July 4th. We're talking Independence Day.
War of the Worlds meets Top Gun.
Ooh, I like that. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for finding us. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. The show's on Twitter and on Instagram. Follow us that way. You can contact us that way. Dang it, I always forget. We are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that website for other members' film reviews. And today we're going to talk about the popcorn flick of all popcorn flicks from 1996. It's Independence Day.
Yeah, so it's the 4th of July weekend, baby, but cancel your plans. Numerous gigantic spacecraft have entered the atmosphere, headed to every major city. While the president scrambles to make a plan, the military prepares to defend the Earth, and a clever cable technician uncovers their true plans when he decodes a message the ships are sending to one another.
All right, so War of the Worlds meets Top Gun's Bud with Bill Pullman.
Yeah. We have to start with the cast of this movie. Oh my God, the cast is so great.
The cast, yeah, I'll give the credit. The cast is good.
The cast is fantastic. You got a Will Smith just off of Fresh Prince. And I think he had done Bad Boys, I think, at this point.
Which is funny because when he did Bad Boys, he was the headliner. It was Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, look at those names change over the course of 3 Bad Boys movies.
When that Bad Boys came out, it was Martin Lawrence pretty much give him all the good jokes and lines, and now it's kind of gone the other way.
Exact the other way, yeah. So we got Will Smith as, I guess, our lead of the film. Doesn't show up for about 20 minutes. I think Bill Pullman is maybe one of the best presidents put to film because, he's phenomenal as a person I would have voted for.
Right. And Will Smith does the alien what he did to Chris Rock.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just to an
But
alien.
maybe it's a better venue if it's an alien.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jeff Goldblum, David Levinson, who I think is the best character in the film because he's the most believable person in the world, someone who has the potential to do great things and just doesn't.
But then you got Robert Loggia.
Yep.
After doing big. But, the crusty general, general, and then you got the dad from Wonder Years. So
yeah, well, what's funny about Robert Loggia is there's a really funny story in that he actually asked what movie really are we making? He talked to him. He was like, I want to know the tone of how I should play, and Emmerich told him to go watch the movie Airport to get a sense of it. Well, it turns out he didn't say airport; he said airplane.
Oh,
and so. A couple hours later, he was told by one of the assistants, Robert Loggia's in his trailer. He won't come out. He's mad as hell. Because Robert Loggia had been convinced that he'd signed on to do a spoof movie. And was pissed. Because he thought they were going to be taking it serious enough, right? And so he realized, I told him airplane instead of airport. Which, you know what? I've made that mistake many times.
But it is kind of a comedy.
The thing about it is it's played cheesy.
Yeah,
absolutely. The film is not. I always took it seriously because I was 6 when it came out, and watching the movie. This is one of the movies that, like Jurassic Park, scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. I remember
you were 6.
When I was watching this movie. I was watching it. I was the kid who was up in front of the TV because we didn't get to go see the movie. This is one of the rare movies my brother was huge on. He went to see it in the theater. He bought it. He brought it home. So it must have been a big deal because my brother loved it. I was just up in the front of the TV enjoying the hell out of this movie. And I can't tell you that it actually scared me when I was watching it. But it was one of those movies I remember having nightmares about for years.
Really?
That I would wake up in the middle of the night and see an alien and sitting in the little chair in my room across from me. It just turned out to be my Alf doll. But, scared the hell out of me nonetheless.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
But I remember folding a ship. I made a paper ship while I was watching the movie. And I made little drawings of the aliens and stuff. I seriously loved the mythology behind it. I didn't realize that it actually scared the hell out of me. So It holds true though.
Does it still scare the hell out of you?
I get a creep factor from the aliens, but I think part of it is that the mythology around how they are built is so clever that it's not a movie that internally gives you Area 51 and all the aliens are real just on the outset. But they come to Earth, 15-mile wide ships. So it's kind of like when they show up, you're like, if you're trying to get out of the city, you're already screwed. There's no way you're getting if you told everyone in Minneapolis to evacuate Minneapolis, I'm not getting out if I'm downtown. That's not happening. So I understand the fear about them. And then having the whole idea that there was 2 designs done. Patrick Tatopoulos, who was the production designer, had 2 designs done for the aliens. One was the small one was the big one that Roland Emmerich liked both. So he said, let's just have one be an exoskeleton for the other. And it's cool that, they have this like living biomechanical suit that they wear because they're just kind of jelly underneath. And I think that's a really clever idea. Is if you like both versions, we'll just make one of them the suit that's like a creature suit. So the aliens themselves are taken very seriously, and the stuff going on with the ships landing, destroying major landmarks, everything there is done seriously. It's the characters that are having fun in the movie. It's the characters are Top Gun. The movie is War of the Worlds.
Right.
The story is War of the Worlds. Yeah.
How you explain it a little bit better, right? Yeah. How many cliches can you fit in a movie?
All of them. All of the cliches. But that's why I stand by that the film, again, it never takes the characters seriously with those elements. But what's really fun about it is that, it is the characters that we're endeared to because Will Smith is the kind of person, he wants to have July 4th off and he can't. I've known that pain. Yeah. Bill Pullman just wants to get his family back together, but of course he's the leader of the country. He's got to be worried about that. And then you have, what is Jeff Goldblum's first thought when the world might be coming to an end is I've got to get to my ex-wife and try to salvage things before it's too late, and I'll take my annoying father with me. There's great character pairings throughout the film. And they are endearing. They are likable people. They're not all interesting, but they're likable. I mean, putting Randy Quaid as your unknown hero of the film.
I don't think he's acting.
No, probably not. Probably not.
I know
he probably thinks that's where he went at the end of his career.
So, and Kyle talked about in a couple of episodes, he would not put Alien in a horror category. I will not put this in an action movie. I think this is more of a comedy than an action movie. But Jeff Goldblum leading the title, it's almost like it should be. I mean, he's saying his lines is almost like.
But see, I think the cheese, I've taken it as not comedy because I think that the cheese factor is there. But I think watching this movie, the idea of it being a rousing spectacle of not even just Americans coming together, but the world coming together, it's a hopeful film in that way. Very cliche, very silly, but I've never found it to be overly funny in terms of how it's portrayed. But that might just be my nostalgia level. I never laughed at the jokes as much as I felt the impact of the destruction.
Yeah, I don't think it's the jokes. It's just a lot of it, like, it's what you do in a Mel Brooks comedy. We declare Independence Day. It's almost
But that's again, the speech was never meant to be a rousing speech, I guess. And originally, I think they had another actor set to play the president that was going to be, they had written President Whitmore as being a Nixon-esque character the first time. He was kind of not going to be the good guy of the movie.
That would have been funny.
But then when they had to cast Bill Pullman because he was the person who they got closest to the good performance they were looking for in that, and so they rewrote the speech. They made him a more likable person. The speech itself had tweaked a little bit, but they never expected it to be like a rousing speech, one that would be used in a Bud Light Super Bowl ad just 20 years later. They never really meant for it to be that, and the cast had not been asked to clap. And I think part of that is that the speech becomes better because Pullman believes in what he's saying. And again, that comes down to the characters are silly at times, but they all believe what they're doing. They all are really like strongly aware of the fact that like this is what I would want to be. This is like the hopeful achievement of what they want to be. I don't think Will Smith would get into a cockpit to go fight the aliens, but I think he believes his character would. That's kind of the big difference. Yeah, and smoke a cigar, of course. But Jeff Goldblum would probably not have gone up to that ship, but he believes his character would do it and then regret it. I think it all comes down to how the performances are placed in the film. So I've never found it to be like that. It's in line with those classic disaster films, and that you have a high number of characters, and we're going to see some of them go. I've always equated disaster movies to slasher films. It's who's going to survive.
We talked about the emergence, the rediscovery of disaster movies that happened in the 90s.
Yeah, we did a whole series of it. Check that out from 70s, last season.
Yeah.
I think we covered the Towering Inferno, Airport 1 and 2. We have Earthquake. Yeah. We got lots of good classic 70s.
And then it came back again in the 90s, especially the mid-90s. A lot of disaster movies like Twister, Dante's Peak. could put this kind of in the category of disaster movies. And I think Roland wants to work in disaster movies.
That's all he's ever wanted.
This is kind of him trying to do a disaster movie with an alien sci-fi kind of concept to it.
Yeah, that's the thing about Roland Emmerich is I do think one thing I want to give him credit for in this film that I think a lot of other filmmakers suck at, and I'm going to say a lot of filmmakers suck at doing this, but Roland Emmerich does it well. He understands the level of technology that he can use in his movie, because I do think the special effects in all of his movies are good for the time. Like, they are made to the extent of how they can look in the time. I can look back at some of his older stuff and be like, well, the movie's not great, but I think he knew what he was capable of accomplishing from a purely technical standpoint, which is nowadays we don't have that. We have movies that come out and 5 years later they look awful because their CG is so wasted.
Well, this is definitely like almost you can see from Con Air. It's very like matted over.
Yep.
Because then I was like, oh my God, that looks. At the time, it looked very clever, but you can tell it's two films put over together.
Yeah, they're cleaned over each other, but they also he knew. He was asked to do CG for the explosion scenes, and he said, no, what we're going to do is we'll build a miniature city. We'll turn it on its side because fire goes up. So this way the fire will go sideways in the film. He had a really clever standpoint of we can avoid using CG. And I think the scenes where you can tell there's CG are the ones that are worst. He learns as he goes, and I think a lot of his movies visually don't age as much as the stories do.
And Randy Quaid crop duster.
Yep.
Probably descended from whoever was crop dusting from North by Northwest.
I have to assume so because their tact is probably about the same.
There's a tank full of
dusting crops where ain't no crops.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Let's just say that their overhead is probably not as good. Randy Quaid in this movie is Cousin Eddie if he were abducted by aliens.
With very little responsibility. Yeah,
yes. He's probably the worst.
You think Cousin Eddie
hero.
was more had respect for responsibility than this guy. Yeah.
But Randy Quaid's character is one of those guys where it's almost like you spend most of the movie wondering why he's in the movie. You know, he's there so that he can have his triumphant moment.
The comedy relief.
He's the comedy relief. If there is a character I'll admit as being the comedy relief of the film, he's absolutely the comedy relief. He's the one who is bumbling, stupid, believes he's been abducted by aliens. We never really get an answer as to whether or not he really was. But he believes he was. And he's the one who we consistently laugh at, even though he should be the character that we should be mad at because his children are basically carrying him through the movie. Randy Quaid is a very odd addition to this film.
But it's what I'm saying based on cliches, but it's also a lot of actors' backgrounds of characters they've done before.
Yeah, it's archetypes, yeah.
Yeah, because Jeff Goldblum's always the character nobody listens to.
Yep.
Listen to me. Nobody's going to listen to you. Even if you're the guy running the machine in The Fly or Jurassic World, nobody's going to listen to you, Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, even in Jurassic Park a couple years earlier, he still used the line, must go faster, must go faster. It's the same thing. He's kind of...
And he's always surprised that he come up with the solution. Wait a minute. He's always surprised that he came up with the solutions. Nobody else did.
But we get that with, Robert Loggia, especially in the 70s and 80s, was hard-edged kind of... Even in Big, he's kind of a general of a CEO. He's very, hard-hitting. That's why the scene in Big is so joyful when he finally gets on the piano, because that's not who he is. James Reborn, who is basically the, I don't trust anyone, I don't think anyone's capable of anything. He's kind of a, the character that we want to die at the end, who doesn't get to. Even Harvey Fierstein, who, plays David's coworker. What is it? He plays Marty. What I think was funny about Harvey Fierstein...
He's got the greatest voice ever.
He's got one of the most iconic voices, and yet every movie he's in feels like that voice belongs in that movie. Like when you see him in Mrs. Doubtfire, you feel like, nope, that's exactly where he should be. He did a great episode of How I Met Your Mother where he played everyone's smoking voice. Oh. When everyone starts smoking again, they all start turning into Harvey Fierstein. And
I remember him from Cheers when he played Christy Alley's long like
that.
And he's like, oh my God, what happened? Your voice sounds so much better than high school.
Yeah.
So I know.
I think every time he showed us on film, I kind of have a laugh because it shouldn't be as iconic because he's known for one thing, but it works in every movie. And I think this is one where he's probably the person I get sad for the most when he kicks the bucket.
I know we're supposed to be against cliches and against typecasting, but you have to. These are the reasons why you have these.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of expected. Jeff Goldblum's not going to do Robert Loggia's character.
No.
You have to sometimes do a little bit of typecasting to get the movie going.
But I think that harkens back to disaster movies of the 70s. When you look at Poseidon Adventure, Gene Hackman is playing a very Gene Hackman-esque character. The character's not
'cause
written
he's shouting
for
all the time.
Yeah.
Him and Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine
the two
playing
biggest
the exact person.
Two biggest shout actors of all time.
When you get a Steve McQueen in Towering Inferno, you get a guy who's basically like, he's got a level of heroism to his role. Paul Newman is the guy with the smarts who's able to go in the Towering Inferno. I am convinced that our lead actor from Earthquake, whose name now escapes me, what's his name? Planet of the Apes.
Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston. God, why am I blanking on that? Charlton Heston, in every single disaster movie he's in, is playing exactly the person Charlton Heston was born to play in all those movies.
Yeah.
These are, the archetypes of disaster films are kind of like, let the disaster be the character, and then just have these people that are kind of playing.
Right. I think
roles.
that's the most effective part of the movie is the event. Doesn't really, and you only have a great cast, but the event supersedes everything going on. It was, it was pitched, the big scene of the White House blowing up. We've never seen that before.
Yep.
And that was advertised on Entertainment Tonight and all that stuff that, they did, no, the White House really does exist. This is from a movie. It's made up. And that was the pitch delivery to go see this movie. And that was on TV commercials.
Yep.
That was the delivery of the White House being blown up. What is happening to the world? Of course, that's the epicenter of the world is the White House, right?
Yep.
The American White House.
I think the callback for the White House explosion that happens in one of the Austin Powers films where he blows it up and they're like, damage report. And he's like, no, that's a movie.
Right,
it's
yeah.
pretty good.
But it was a big thing.
When the movie screened at the White House, apparently Emmerich was concerned. He didn't want to sit by President Bill Clinton because he didn't want to sit by him when the White House exploded. So he put Bill Pullman next to him, and he's like, they're two presidents. They'll get along.
There.
I just don't
Two
want I don't want him to
Bills.
look at me when
Yeah.
he discovers me blowing up the White House.
There's Bill and Bill. Right, yeah.
What else is there? I think
weird.
I've been trying to figure this out because I had read something clever about how the score works in the film, and that is that the score apparently uses drums to do the Morse code for the word die at the beginning of the film as a
That's a little too much
homage.
work involved.
I know. I want to take and extrapolate it out because I heard someone had said online that if you listen to the drums in the score, it's D-I-E, D-I-E, and that's like the rhythm that the score plays with.
It's almost like when you buy those CDs from the 90s and you look for the lost track and all of a sudden you hear the lost track. What are you doing this for? That's what you hear.
I'm trying to find the die part. And maybe it's because I don't know Morse code very well, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's a clever little joke that someone figured out and told his friend, and his friend was like, "That's stupid." It's like it's not going to work for everybody, but
I think that's what the longevity of Roland's career is. He embraces the stupidity. Roger Corman embraces the cheap.
Yeah, he's kind
Roland, this sounds stupid. Let's do it.
Yeah, he kind of one of the great things I had heard from a friend of mine, and I try to credit my buddy Marcus every time this comes up, is when he talked about Michael Bay, and he said Michael Bay makes likable trash, and I would equate that very similarly to Roland Emmerich. I think Roland Emmerich makes a lot of likable trash. The movies are not inherently they will never win the major awards.
They're not going to sit in film class and watch them.
Although this did win Best Visual Effects. But, it's not a movie that we study for its themes, for its appeal. But it has that ingrown, I have to watch it every July 4th. I absolutely have to. Last year, I showed my wife Armageddon for the first time. Because I was like, let's just try something different. And I did feel that void of not having Independence Day playing on July 4th. I haven't seen the sequel because I'm worried that it will take away from my nostalgic view.
Either, but we're in a majority.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people tell me you're better off not seeing it. Unfortunately, I have a 3D Blu-ray. I'm going to have to eventually watch it. But I'm concerned about watching the sequel because I don't want it to take away from the glory that I feel watching the original movie.
I think it's kind of cute that you have this nice nostalgia piece to this movie, where I just thought it was a great drive-in movie that kind of was forgettable after I saw it.
Oh man, no, it's fantastic.
This is a perfect drive-in movie.
This is a great movie to see in a drive-in. I would have loved to have seen this in a drive-in, because it is one. If you miss the line of dialogue, you're probably okay. You know what I mean?
You don't have to pay attention to the dialogue.
There's no exposition-heavy moments where you're like, "Damn, I don't understand this now." Although I will say there is a director's extended edition available on some home media versions of this movie. It's the only one I watched now. It's about 10 minutes longer, but there's more padding on some of the things that make less sense.
If I owned a drive-in, it would probably play every July 4th.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would say there's two things I do on July 4th movie-wise. I watch Independence Day, and I usually watch an Indiana Jones movie because I do Independence Day. Those are the two things I associate with it.
What makes a great drive-in movie is you can check out, or you don't have to follow the dialogue so much.
Yeah, and that's I think where this movie is at its best is that it's very accessible. Where a 6-year-old like me could have watched it, I knew everything going on in the movie. I understood everything.
Like
to the
Con
point
Air is
where
a great drive-in movie, and I saw that.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Where like the spectacle is what it's there for. And as long as you catch the rousing speech by Bill Pullman and you feel afterwards like I'm proud of being a American.
Oh, if I ran the drive-in, I would definitely turn up the volume for that.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go back down.
But then you can tell like Roland Emmerich knew, I think he knew the idea that he was going for was going to be something where we have to play to the rousing. We have to play to the rousing American-esque kind of stuff. The speech is done on the same tarmac where the Enola Gay was, famous World War II bomber. And like so, like it was all kind of done in this kind of American-esque, like, you know, rise to the occasion of it. I mean, the film is set on Independence Day. No other country has an Independence Day July 4th because no other so this movie doesn't translate in the titling that well. I think they even have changed the title a few times when it's gone to different countries because they're like, let's pick a date that's more important to this country to set the movie. You know. Yeah. And it seems like it fits for that reason. But no, I've grown up loving this movie. I watch it all the time.
Like I said, I'm not gonna trash it, or that's too lazy for me.
I want you to tell me what you don't like.
I watched it last night, and I was like, I retained a lot of stuff that I enjoyed from the movie. But it's not one of those things that you're gonna enjoy from film class. Yeah. But it's one of those that it's a commodity movie. Yep. It's a drive-in experience that everybody can have a barbecue out and you can enjoy the fun of it. Yeah. And laugh at the stupidity of it, and it's an experience.
It's one of the things where the ability to take and enjoy it like a popcorn movie, like really breathe into the popcorn movie. Yeah. I've often said I've contemplated getting a projector and outdoor screen for my yard because I have a pretty big backyard.
This is the movie for it.
This is one of the first movies I'd show because again it would probably be during the summer when I'd buy that. So, but I would love to gather people around and actually, and this is again going back to even things like just things like Blood Diner or like those kinds of cheesy movies where it's really fun to get a group of people together, have some chicken and popcorn and just
that'd be hard to eat through, right?
You know, and really take in a movie. It's like this is that kind of movie as well.
Hey, if you can eat through a Cronenberg movie, that's a superpower. So before we go, I want to mention there was a little animosity between Independence Day and X-Files TV show, and then we're going to make the movie in 1997, and this movie has a little jab at X-Files. If you know the line, you know the person about there's aliens. Can you believe in aliens? Of course I believe in aliens. I watch X-Files. And then you watch the X-Files movie, you can see Mulder urinating on an Independence movie poster in the alley. So there's a little bit of friction between Independence Day film and the X-File franchise. I think it's not really. It's a friendly.
I think it's like a friendly ribbing, if you will, because there's also. I'd mentioned this to you before we started this. Well, that Stargate had this huge franchise afterwards that Roland Emmerich was not involved in. He did the original film. He always said he wanted to go back and like wipe the slate.
Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah, but the show became huge with SG-1. And I think there's been 17 seasons of various Stargate shows that have played. Yeah. And throughout that show, they commonly call out to like alien movies that don't make as much sense, and so they do make fun of Independence Day and Signs and like movies where like. Some of the nonsensical stuff because they've seen real aliens, of course, you know. What I think is funny about that is the computer virus in this film, which does get explained better in a deleted scene that was taken out, is no different than the common cold of War of the Worlds. It's the irony of something small being able to take down something big. It's the David and Goliath of it all. Yeah. And that's the only when people talk about silly things like that, I always like to remark, War of the Worlds kind of had some silly stuff too.
It wasn't the humans that stopped them, right?
Yeah,
they just they got caught from somebody. They cabbed a guy that had a cold, and they caught the cold in their system, and they shut down the whole thing.
Yeah, so I think the computer virus here is a nice callback to that.
That was another great TV show from the '90s, War of the Worlds. Was played.
That's right. Yeah,
played on the '90s. Yeah,
but we wouldn't have that without films like this being popular.
Watched it in college. So,
Have you seen Independence Day? Let us know down below your thoughts on this film. Happy July 4th, by the way. Thank you for enjoying an episode of our show during that time. Let us know down below if you think we should ever cover the sequel, or if you'd like to cover a different Roland
tell you
Emmerich
what,
film.
we'll do it if you join the Patreon and tell us to.
Yeah, please join the Patreon. I want to unwrap that movie. I want to unwrap it and put it in and watch it, and then maybe feel bad about myself afterwards. So please consider joining the Patreon down below. The link's in the description. For $5 a month, you can join our rotation of people that pick the films for us. But hey, if you only have $1 to spare, consider just joining at the $1 tier. You get episodes like Picks with Kyle and Nick, our exclusive show. We just did our top 10 of 1997, so join us for that next month. I'm calling it next month. We're going to do our top films from Alfred Hitchcock. I didn't even tell him. I'm telling him right now. I'm finishing up my Alfred Hitchcock movies for our top films. So join the Patreon down below so you can be part of that as we cover our favorite films in the secret world of that. Exclusive content on there as well. Please like and subscribe to the video as well. They're two things that don't cost you a dime that help to support the channel as well.
Yeah,
and
tell your friends too.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. Happy July 4th. You can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts.
All right. So, I'm trying to do die in Morse code or have a good day or something. I don't know Morse code. Let us know in the comments.